We're back. It is Rich Lieberman on a very beautiful, very serene, dare I say, chilly, chilly Thursday evening in the city by the bay known as the tranquil, lopsided, and rather bizarre. I sound like the guy. Picture, if you will, the bizarre Bay Area where there is no media. There are enablers and people who profess to cover the news, but really do not cover the news. So we're back. Had to take a break, and we are back doing what we do. As I once again refer to myself in the third person and try to be somebody other than just the fact that I'm some little moleculic entity on YouTube and trying to do what the people want me to do. And I spoke earlier, and will continue to get into this, about the culture clash that is our media today. How the media, and it's a big, big phrase, but how they've gone awry from doing their job and covering the news and trying to, I guess, counteract what is something. It's a reality. It's the fact that there are so many distractions, so many little things taking place within the context of real news that should be covered, that are still kind of vanguards of what should be something that is completely normal and not have to adapt to certain things. But I get all of that without getting it, and lament the fact that they're not doing their job. And while they do, in their mind, their job and covering things, that they run into problems and that they have issues with in other issues. Excuse me. Before I continue, I didn't even really get going yet. So this is all sort of the thing that you have to kind of deal with. Let me get my camera right here. There we go. Okay, now we're cooking. See a little reflection in the back and all that. See, I have enhanced visual guides. Aren't we excited? Just a little background here. I do a YouTube show. I used to write more, frankly, on the media and personalities and things that take place in the Bay Area, which used to be kind of a hotbed of media culture, right? The birthplace over in Berkeley of freedom of speech, the Mario Savio movement and all that in the 60s when I was a little lad. And it's now become sort of like, destination nothing. We might as well be in Siberia, although Siberia has a better track record of covering the news. You get a much broader perspective. You get a much more real, legit news environment in Siberia, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, Canada, dare I say, Great Britain, part of course, Europe and all that. Whereas in America, we have become the Taylor Swift network. We really have. And we juxtapose the Taylor Swift phenomena and various celebrity trolls and insignificant kind of things with actual news, and not doing the enabling thing like giving us updates as to Taylor Swift's domestic life, in which she announces that she's going to get married, and the whole fucking world reacts, well, mostly the United States, with this glee, like a whole bunch of teenagers would react to their debuting their outfit for the senior prom, including, I mentioned a little earlier, this White House correspondent. I don't know her name. She's looking at her phone, presumably one of her ex accounts, probably Instagram or TikTok or what have you, and she's like reacting to Taylor Swift and the Kelsey guy. Oh, we're going to get married and all that. She's like, This woman's covering the White House. Aren't you happy that you have? I still laugh at it, and apparently it got a life of its own on social media. But anyway, she's there looking at the fact that Taylor Swift announced her future engagement to her future ex-husband. I know it's bad. I shouldn't do that, but what the hell, I'm doing it. In any event, and you juxtapose that with what happened, the latest American tragedy, and it's singularly American, and that is the latest mass shooting, another destination, another locale, in this case, Minneapolis, which was just getting over its day before tragedy of shooting, although it didn't have the parameters, the side text that this had. A bunch of kids, literally kids, praying in their school, their church, Catholic school in South Minneapolis. Sorry, folks. And then you have this madman, whatever he was, trans, mad, whatever the fuck. He was nuts. And he goes on a shooting spree with all these weapons of mass destruction that he was somehow able to purchase. Not going to get into gun control in that debate, but he goes on and gets the aforementioned weapons and proceeds to kill and maim a lot of people. And I don't have the latest death count, but it was 2. It may be more than that now. I know several people, 14, 15 people, and they were all mostly kids, little kids, ages 8 to 18, who were shot at for no other apparent reason, and they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this evil person went off before doing his destruction and then killing himself. And the coverage was the usual coverage. And I don't necessarily say it was bad. It was the usual triumvirate, the trifecta of visuals, parents terrified, running to see the whereabouts of their kids, cops and police sirens and visuals like that running around, overhead shots. And this is Minneapolis, South Minneapolis to be exact. And the ensuing pundits coming on to tell us what we already were witnessing, not the gruesome killings themselves, but the reaction that we've become all too familiar with. The news conference with the sheriff and the politicians and all that. I'm not denigrating politicians here or the sheriff. I'm just saying it's the usual reaction that we have, that we become so numb to this. The sheriff, politicians, senators, congresspeople, the mayor. And Minneapolis has been fraught with a lot, not like this, of course, but with the Rodney King, the George Floyd killing, the subsequent protests and the burning down of a police station in Minneapolis and other killings. And then you have this, the school, the mass killing, at least 2 people, some kids, and these are kids in very serious medical situations. And then you have all this, the pundits coming out and telling us the usual story about guns, and then we go into the madman who pulled this out. And I don't really give a shit about the guy's past, only 23 years old. He was a guy, and then I guess he wanted to become a woman, and so we're already going into that territory. Who cares whether he was a guy or a girl or what have you? It just adds to one of the layers of the story. But I was juxtaposing all of this to the Taylor Swift announcement, the phenomenon, the multi-layered shit that is that, against this. I want to talk about contrast. and how we've become so benign and used to tragedies like this. But even with all that, you juxtapose it with Taylor Swift and then Minneapolis. And how ridiculous is that? How pathetic, how bizarre. I mentioned it sounds like the beginning of a Oliver Stone movie, or the other guy, Quentin Tarantino, who has a profound appreciation and love for juxtapositions like this. Um, I made a case that it could be viewed and taken and reacted to in the context of that movie that I'm still trying to figure out. Speaking of Quentin Tarantino, with the violence starring Woody Harrelson, and I'm trying to think, it was something, um, it was very violent. I do remember it was from like about 10, 15 years ago. Somebody in the room eventually will get me the title, and we'll go on from there. But our media now is what they should be doing and what they aren't doing, and the fact that they have an excuse because we have all these alternatives and all these options now, where we should be concentrating on covering the story and leave the punditry and all the outside elements out, and concentrating on really just giving news. We can have analysis. We can talk about the trends and the things of that nature. They'll eventually come out. But right now, we have too much analysis, too much punditry. Okay. Some of it is self-explanatory. We don't need John Miller, who's on CNN now, has got such or the violence, these mass shootings that happen every other day, pretty much, it seems. They put him on staff now, and he comes on, and you see him now every other day because this shit happens every other day. I know it's not exactly every other day, but it seems that way. And what's the other person? The former FBI Homeland Security figure. I believe her name is Kayat. Uh, something. It's a CNN woman. Kayat. Somebody will help me out on that. Anyway, so it sort of has become the way the media is handling these things these days. It's rather sad, and the fact that we have. I talked about Anderson Cooper, who is generally a good reporter, an anchor, seasoned. Although his ratings have gone in the toilet and all that. I mean, 12 people basically watch him, which is kind of like CNN these days. Nobody watches CNN. The only people that watch CNN these days are people like myself, who wait for these breaking news events, which, by the way, they mangle. CNN doesn't know what the hell real legitimate breaking news is, because they have incorporated that into their daily news model with their opening, and they're coming back from commercials with breaking news stories. Breaking news. It's not breaking news. It's news that has already taken place. And the fact that CNN puts this shit out, breaking news, when it's not breaking news, and they say, well, we're just putting it part of the model that we broadcast. Well, then that's one of the reasons maybe why CNN, your ratings are in the toilet. So here I am. And I've trashed, folks. We'll get back to that in a second. I've trashed the San Francisco press and have basically gone into detail why the San Francisco press is so lousy, is so brutal, is so putrid, is so minimal, and how fucked up it's become. And I get a lot of flack for that. Some people think I've overdone it. I lamented the fact that, the Ron Owens, Laura Owens, Jan Black story hasn't been covered and that kind of a thing. And, that's the deal here. So I'm going to get into that in more tea. I'm going to take a second break and I'm going to come back when a lot of you will be looking for me and I can get more water into my voice so my voice doesn't go out. And then I can give you a more kind of a detailed thing. And we're going to try to become interactive. I'm going to put out a phone number. I'm going to put out text line, all that stuff. And we will begin in earnest in about 10, 15 minutes. Okay. So tell everybody, be forewarned. Rich Lieberman is coming back with authority in about 10, 15 minutes right here on YouTube. It's a Thursday. Talk to you soon.